The filly's ears flattened against her head as she backed into the corner of the auction pen, teeth bared and eyes wild with fear. Dust swirled in the afternoon light as handlers cursed and backed away, nursing bleeding fingers and wounded pride. The auctioneer's voice crackled with frustration over the loudspeaker. As you can see, folks, this one's a real firecracker. Beautiful bloodlines, but she's put 3 men in the medical tent today. The crowd murmured and shifted uncomfortably. That's when I saw her, a slender girl with copper hair and eyes that seemed too old for her young face. She moved toward the pen with quiet determination while everyone else backed away. Mia, get back here right now. A man's voice cut through the tension, but the girl kept walking. She approached the fence slowly, her movements fluid and unhurried. The filly's nostrils flared, her muscles bunched tight as a spring. The girl simply stood there, her hand resting on the rail, and began to whisper. I couldn't hear the words, but I watched in astonishment as the filly's ears slowly swiveled forward. The wild eyes softened, the tensed muscles relaxed, and then, impossibly, the filly took one hesitant step toward the girl, then another. The auction yard fell silent as the copper-haired girl extended her palm, and the filly, the same animal that had terrorized every handler who'd approached her, gently pressed her velvet muzzle into the girl's hand. But to understand how this wild filly found her whisper of peace, we need to go back to when everything seemed impossible. 3 weeks earlier, Mia Sullivan sat in the passenger seat of her father's pickup truck, staring out the window at the passing landscape. The rolling hills of eastern Oregon blurred together, much like the days had since her mother's passing 8 months ago. The silence between her and her father had grown as vast as the open range around them. We need a workhorse, not a project, Jack Sullivan said, breaking the quiet. Something to help with the cattle. Something reliable. His calloused hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Your mother always handled the horses. I never had her touch with them. Mia nodded, knowing what remained unsaid, that she didn't have her mother's touch either. At 15, she'd grown more withdrawn since the funeral, retreating into books and solitude rather than continuing her mother's work with the horses on their small ranch. The auction yard buzzed with activity when they arrived. Dust kicked up by hooves coated everything, and the air smelled of hay, manure, and cheap coffee. Mia followed her father through the crowds, past pens of horses with numbered tags, feeling increasingly overwhelmed by the noise and commotion. Stay close, her father instructed. These auctions can get rowdy. That's when Mia first saw her, a dappled gray filly with a silver mane, separated from the other horses in a pen marked caution. Unlike the other horses who stood placidly or moved with resignation, this one paced the perimeter of her enclosure, tossing her head and snorting. Her coat gleamed despite the dust, and her movements, though agitated, carried a natural grace. What's her story? Jack asked a nearby handler. The man spat tobacco juice into the dirt. That one, found running wild on BLM land. Nobody can get near her without getting bit. Been through 3 trainers already. Each one gave up. She's headed for the kill pen if nobody wants the trouble. Mia felt something twist in her chest. She watched the filly's frantic movements, recognizing something in those wild eyes. Fear disguised as fury, loneliness masked as independence. She knew that feeling. Dad, she said quietly, I want to try with her. Jack Sullivan looked at his daughter like she'd suggested they fly to the moon. Absolutely not. That animal is dangerous, and you haven't worked with horses in months. We need something reliable, remember? Mom would have tried, Mia said softly. Her father's face hardened, then softened just as quickly. He ran a hand through his graying hair. Your mother was special with horses. She had a gift. Maybe I do too, Mia whispered, more to herself than to him. Maybe I just never had the chance to find out. Throughout the day, Mia found herself drawn back to the filly's pen. She watched as handlers attempted to move her, each one retreating with curses as teeth snapped at flesh. The filly's fear was palpable, radiating from her in waves that seemed to push everyone away. During a lull in the auction, Mia slipped away from her father and approached the pen. She stood quietly at the fence, not making eye contact, just existing in the same space as the frightened animal. You're scared, she said softly. I am too. Every single day. The filly's ears flicked toward her voice. Everyone wants you to be something you're not ready to be, Mia continued. They don't understand that you can't rush healing. A handler noticed her and rushed over. "Miss, you need to step back. That one's not safe." "She's just afraid," Mia replied, not moving. "She's vicious is what she is," the man countered. "Nearly took my thumb off this morning." Mia looked at the filly, who had paused her pacing to watch this exchange. She's protecting herself the only way she knows how. Something in Mia's quiet certainty made the handler hesitate. "Well, keep your distance anyway. Your daddy would have my hide if you got hurt." After he walked away, Mia stayed by the fence. The filly had resumed her nervous movement, but occasionally glanced toward Mia, as if puzzled by this human who made no demands. When Jack found his daughter, he sighed heavily. "I see you found trouble." "I found her," Mia corrected. "Dad, please. Let me try." "Mia, we can't afford a project horse. We need a reliable workhorse." "I know," she interrupted. "But what if she could be that? What if all she needs is someone to understand her?" Jack looked at his daughter, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in months. There was a spark in her eyes that had been missing since the funeral. He glanced at the filly, then back at Mia. "One chance," he said finally. "If the price is low enough, you get one chance to show me she's worth keeping. But first sign of real trouble, she goes." "Deal." Mia nodded, hope fluttering in her chest like a captured bird. The next day, Mia returned to the auction yard alone. Her father had reluctantly agreed to let her spend time with the filly before deciding whether to bid. The handler eyed her suspiciously as she approached the pen. "I just want to sit with her," Mia explained. "I won't try to touch her or enter the pen." The man shrugged. "Your funeral, kid." Mia settled on an overturned bucket near the fence. She'd brought a book, her mother's favorite, worn and dog-eared. For an hour, she simply read aloud, her voice soft and steady. The filly watched from the far corner, ears pricked forward despite her defensive posture. "My mom used to say that horses can feel your intentions before you even move," Mia said, closing the book. "She said if your heart is honest, they'll know." The filly snorted, as if in response. "I think you've had people with bad intentions around you," Mia continued. "People who wanted to break you instead of understand you." Slowly, day by day, Mia returned. She brought apples and carrots, leaving them just inside the pen without forcing interaction. She read more stories, spoke about her mother, about the ranch, about her own fears. The filly began to edge closer during these one-sided conversations, though she remained wary. On the fifth day, when Mia placed an apple on the ground and stepped back, the filly approached and took it, maintaining eye contact the entire time. "That's the first time she's taken food from anyone without trying to take fingers too," the handler remarked, watching from a distance. Other trainers at the auction yard began to notice Mia's patient approach. Most scoffed. "You'll never break that horse with whispers and apples," one man told her. "Sometimes you gotta show him who's boss." Mia watched as he demonstrated with another difficult horse, using force and intimidation until the animal submitted. The victory seemed hollow to her. The horse's spirit dimmed rather than directed. "I don't want to break her," Mia told him. "I want her to choose to trust me." The man laughed. "Horses don't choose anything, girl. They get trained or they get put down." That evening, Mia's father came to pick her up and found her sitting cross-legged on the ground outside the pen, the filly standing just a few feet away on the other side of the fence. "She hasn't tried to bite you yet?" he asked, genuinely surprised. "She doesn't want to hurt anyone," Mia replied. "She's just never had a reason to trust." Jack watched his daughter with the horse, noticing how the filly's eyes followed Mia's movements. "The auction's in 3 days," he reminded her. "Even if we get her, there's no guarantee she'll ever be rideable." "I know," Mia said, "but I have to try." The breakthrough came the next day. Mia arrived to find the filly agitated, pacing nervously. A storm was brewing on the horizon, and the dropping air pressure had all the animals on edge. "It's okay," Mia soothed, approaching the fence as usual. "It's just a storm." The filly tossed her head, nostrils flaring. Mia began to hum softly, a lullaby her mother used to sing. Gradually, the filly's movements slowed. She approached the fence where Mia stood, closer than she'd ever come voluntarily. Mia slowly extended her hand, palm up, through the rails. The filly stretched her neck, nostrils fluttering as she caught Mia's scent. Then, miraculously, she pressed her muzzle against Mia's palm. Tears sprang to Mia's eyes. "There you are," she whispered. "I see you now." The moment was shattered by a crack of thunder. The filly spooked, rearing up in panic. As she came down, her hooves struck the fence post where Mia's hand had been seconds before. The wood splintered, and a jagged piece tore across Mia's forearm as she jerked away. Blood welled from the cut. The filly, seeing the blood, backed away in terror, eyes rolling white. A handler rushed over, cursing. "This is exactly what we warned you about," he shouted, pulling Mia away from the fence. "That animal is dangerous." By the time Jack arrived to pick up Mia, her arm had been bandaged by the first aid attendant, and the story had spread throughout the auction yard. The filly had been labeled as confirmed dangerous, and several people suggested she should be euthanized rather than sold. "That's it," Jack said firmly, examining Mia's bandaged arm. "This experiment is over. You're lucky it wasn't worse." "It wasn't her fault," Mia protested. "The thunder scared her. She didn't mean to hurt me." "Intentions don't matter when you're dealing with a 1,000-pound animal," her father replied. "I'm sorry, Mia. I know you see something in her, but we can't risk it." That night, Mia lay awake, tears soaking her pillow. She thought about the filly, alone in her pen, surrounded by people who feared and misunderstood her. She thought about the moment of connection they'd shared before the thunder came, how the filly's eyes had softened, how her breath had felt warm against Mia's palm. Mom would have understood, she whispered into the darkness. Mom would have known what to do. The next morning, Mia came downstairs to find her father at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee. "I called the auction yard," he said without preamble. "That filly is scheduled to be transported to the slaughterhouse after the auction tomorrow. Nobody wants to bid on her now." Mia felt her heart constrict. Because of what happened with me, but it wasn't her fault. Jack sighed. "It doesn't matter whose fault it was. She's been labeled as dangerous, and dangerous horses don't get second chances in this business." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Mia said quietly. "Even broken things." Her father looked at her for a long moment. "Is this about the horse, or is this about you?" "Maybe it's about both of us," Mia admitted. "After Mom died, I felt like something inside me broke. Like I'd never be whole again. But when I'm with that filly, I feel like maybe broken pieces can still fit together somehow." Jack ran a hand over his face. "Your mother would be giving me that look right now. The one that means I'm being stubborn." A ghost of a smile touched Mia's lips. The raised eyebrow and the head tilt. Jack agreed. He sighed heavily. "One more chance. But you don't go near that pen alone. You hear me? I'll be right there the whole time." The auction yard was busier than ever when they arrived. The filly's pen had been marked with additional warning signs, and a crowd had gathered nearby, curious about the horse everyone was talking about. Jack kept a protective hand on Mia's shoulder as they approached. The filly paced anxiously, her silver mane tangled, her beautiful coat dulled by stress. "She knows something's wrong," Mia said. "She can feel that everyone's given up on her." "Mia," her father warned, "be careful." Mia took a deep breath and stepped toward the fence. The crowd quieted, watching. The filly paused her pacing, ears swiveling toward the familiar voice. "I came back," Mia said softly. "I promised I would, and I did." The filly snorted, pawing at the ground. "I know you're scared. I am too. But I think we're stronger together than we are alone." Mia slowly extended her bandaged arm, showing the filly the consequence of yesterday's fear. The filly approached cautiously, nostrils flaring as she caught the scent of antiseptic and blood. She lowered her head, gently nuzzling the bandage. "She's apologizing," Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. Jack watched in amazement as his daughter and the wild filly shared a moment of understanding that transcended words. He saw something in Mia that he hadn't seen since before his wife's illness, a quiet confidence, a sense of purpose. "The auction starts in an hour," he said quietly. "If we're going to bid on her, we need to be sure." Mia turned to her father, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I've never been more sure of anything." The auctioneer's voice boomed through the speakers as the filly was led into the sale ring. She pulled against the lead rope, eyes wild with fear as the unfamiliar handlers struggled to control her. Next up, lot number 147. Unbroken filly, approximately 3 years old, no papers. As you've all heard, this one's got a bit of an attitude problem. Bidding starts at $200. Do I hear $200? The ring remained silent. Potential buyers shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to take on a horse with such a reputation. "Folks, this is good horse flesh going to waste. $150? Anyone at $150? More silence. The filly grew increasingly agitated, trying to pull away from the handlers. $100, then. Surely someone will take a chance at $100. Jack raised his hand. 100. The auctioneer pointed to him. I have $100 from the gentleman in the back. Do I hear $125? No other bids came. The handlers struggled to maintain control as the filly reared up, nearly breaking free. Going once, going twice. Suddenly, the filly broke away from the handlers. Panic erupted as people scrambled to get out of the way. The filly bolted around the ring, looking for escape, teeth bared at anyone who approached. Somebody get a tranquilizer, someone shouted. Mia, stay back. Jack grabbed for his daughter, but she had already slipped from his grasp. Before anyone could stop her, Mia had climbed through the fence and stood in the center of the ring. The crowd gasped. The filly skidded to a halt, nostrils flaring, eyes locked on the girl. Easy, Mia called softly. Easy, beautiful. It's just me. The filly's ears flicked forward, recognizing the voice. She snorted, pawing the ground nervously. I know you're scared, Mia continued, her voice carrying in the now silent auction yard. Everyone's watching, and you don't like that. But I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you. Mia took one step forward, then another. The filly remained frozen, trembling slightly. You and me, we understand each other, Mia whispered. We both know what it's like to feel broken. But maybe we can heal together. She extended her hand, palm up. I promise to be patient. I promise to listen. I promise I'll never give up on you. The filly lowered her head slightly, her breathing calming. Then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, she took one hesitant step toward Mia, then another. When they were just a foot apart, Mia whispered something that only the filly could hear. My mother's name was Silver. I think that should be your name too. A new beginning for both of us. The filly gently pressed her muzzle into Mia's outstretched hand. The auctioneer's voice broke the spell. Sold. For $100 to the Sullivan family. 3 months later, Mia stood in the corral behind their ranch house, Silver grazing peacefully nearby. The filly, no longer wild-eyed and fearful, wore a halter and lead rope, comfortable with the gentle pressure they provided. Jack leaned against the fence, watching his daughter brush the horse's gleaming coat. Your mother would be proud, he said. Of both of you. Mia smiled, running her hand along Silver's neck. We still have a long way to go before she's a proper ranch horse. Maybe, Jack agreed. But you've already proved the most important thing, that understanding works better than force, and that patience is never wasted. Mia rested her forehead against Silver's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of the horse's breathing. Mom used to say that horses mirror our souls, that they reflect back what we put into them. She was right about that, Jack said, just like she was right about you having her gift. Mia looked up at her father. I don't think it's a gift exactly. I think it's just being willing to listen instead of always trying to be heard. As if in agreement, Silver gently nudged Mia's shoulder. The filly who once bit everyone who approached her now sought out human touch, finding comfort in the connection she'd once feared. That evening, as the sun set over the ranch, Mia sat on the top rail of the corral. Silver stood beside her, head resting against Mia's leg. Together, they watched the colors change in the sky, two broken souls finding wholeness in each other's company. We're going to be okay, Mia whispered, stroking the silver mane that had given her friend her name. Both of us, together. Silver's ear flicked back to catch the words, and in that simple gesture was all the agreement Mia needed. Some connections didn't require words at all, just an open heart, willing to listen to the whispers that others might miss. In the distance, a coyote called to the rising moon. Silver raised her head, alert but unafraid. Mia smiled, knowing that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it alongside someone you trusted. And trust, like healing, couldn't be rushed or forced. It could only be earned, one whispered promise at a time.